Today is January 16th. Today's quote is entitled, "Is your Bhakti just rules and rituals?" When we execute Bhakti, but don't really want to give up anarthas or improve ourselves, our Bhakti tends to become niyamagraha, success in following rules and rituals. I can make this very, very simple, just based on my experience, that to execute Bhakti requires a certain consciousness. Today on the walk, we were making a point that the devotee was asking, well, how do you avoid fault finding? And I said, it's not just like you learn how to not find fault. It's coming, there's a cause, there's a consciousness which is causing you to see a fault. You have to change the source of that consciousness. And I was making the point that fault finding is not the mentality of a Vaishnava. So if we're fault finding, it means we haven't developed the proper mentality of a devotee. Because if we developed a proper mentality, believe it or not, we wouldn't fault find. We wouldn't. Vaishnavas don't fault find. Did you know that? Did anyone ever tell you that? That devotees don't fault find? You'd say, but I know devotees, they do fault find. I said, yeah, but a real Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava, does not fault find. Why? He doesn't have that mentality. Why? Because he's humble. He just appreciates. It requires a certain mentality to fault find. It's essential if you are going to fault find to have that mentality. And if you fault find, it's because you have that mentality to one degree or another. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't fault find. But the point is, Vaishnavas do not fault find. Write that down. Post it up in your refrigerator. That's a powerful statement. Vaishnavas do not fault find. That means, let's unpack that, it means Vaishnava mentality is not a fault-finding mentality. If you have the mentality of a Vaishnava, it is devoid of the consciousness of the soil upon which fault-finding, the seed of fault-finding is planted or would grow. You understand what I'm saying? It's a certain way of thinking. If you have a certain way of thinking, you will fault find. If you have another way of thinking, another attitude, you won't fault find. It's just not possible. Fault finding cannot exist in that soil. So how does it relate to today's quote? I will tell you in 1 second yes. So in today's quote, we're talking about the execution of Bhakti externally. So executing Bhakti externally is easier, more simple than executing it internally, because internally it requires a molding of a different consciousness than we came to the Krishna consciousness movement with. And it requires altering our attitudes about many things. So what often happens for devotees is they don't alter their attitudes, they alter their activities. So they engage in devotional activities, but internally may be harboring materialistic mentalities. So then they come to ISKCON, they're doing nice service, and they're having trouble with this person or fault finding this situation or that situation. Those are things they brought with them because of a materialistic mentality. They brought that into ISKCON and they didn't change it. So therefore, within ISKCON, they find so many faults. Indeed, there are many. But it's not that you have to focus on them. But if we bring in a fault-finding mentality, we will focus on them. We'll carry them around. We'll think about them. We'll talk about them. They will bother us. Whereas if we have a Krishna conscious attitude, if we have a humble attitude, we will see those same faults, but we won't be talking about them, carrying them around, or being burdened by them. That's the difference. So if we just execute Krishna consciousness with the body, but we don't develop the proper attitude of a Vaishnava, it's going to be a problem, because the attitude is most essential. Now you might say, but isn't it true if I execute devotional service, the attitude will change? And the answer is a definite maybe. And that's all I can say. It's a definite maybe. It may not. It depends on you. And it may change your attitude. It depends on you. But if you're finding that your attitude is getting you into trouble, so to speak, or if you're finding your attitude is not Krishna conscious, it's not the way a Krishna conscious person would be, then it means you've got to go a little deeper in self-reflection and start to understand what is causing me to think in this way, what is causing me to act in this way. There's deep-rooted anarthas And so just by executing devotional service rituals and so forth externally, it doesn't necessarily mean internally I will be purified. And if I'm not internally purified, the point of today's quote is, then you haven't really, we're not grasping what is the mood, what is the character, what is the essence, what is the consciousness of a Krishna conscious person. We're supposed to grasp that, and we're supposed to try to imbibe that and live that, not just externally execute Krishna consciousness. That's not so difficult, but it's difficult to actually be it. So it's very, very important to understand. If you have any problem, look at your consciousness and ask yourself, what is wrong with my consciousness that is causing me to either be envious, jealous, a fault finder, lusty, greedy, whatever it is. There's something within our consciousness that's causing that problem. And it's not going to go away just by knowledge or just by knowing the problem. It's going to go away when that consciousness is purified. The attitude is changed to a Krishna conscious attitude. And then you won't have the problem. That's the point. So if it's just executed externally, that's nice. But if it doesn't match internally, it's actually a problem, because the goal is to develop the right consciousness. That consciousness is pleasing to Krishna. That's a reality. We want our consciousness to be pleasing to Krishna, not just our activities.